Welcome to Dental All-Stars. I'm Eric Vickery, lead mastery coach at All-Star Dental Academy and president of Vickery Coaching. And I'm so excited to interview our guest today. Our first guest is Ted Cole. He is UV Angel founder and original inventor. I'm very excited. We have an inventor on the show today. So in addition to developing UV Angel, Ted has 25 years experience in leadership roles in informational technology, IT, you guys, that's that word IT that you always hear. This includes things from founding West Michigan's first all Windows-based online service with, a huge network of 450 churches. There was grants involved. Obviously, you had to lead and run this show, Ted. It looks great. It was a tremendous recognition for him and the public service value that he created there. He's also serving as Director of Informational Services and Director of Telecommunications for a large West Michigan nonprofit that provides a wide array of health services, assisted living, and other services to the elderly. So those of you listening can start to feel this is IT, inventor, and all of a sudden now we've got not only the IT side of it, but health services are going to be involved. So you're going to like this, okay? So serving as Director of Informational Systems for West Michigan's largest privately held accounting firm, as well as serving several years on an international technology advisory board for accounting firms. And also worth noting, 3 of Ted's innovations have been senior capstone projects for Grand Valley State University School of Engineering. So his IT background really set a firm foundation and allowed him the skill set and understanding to develop his proprietary ideas. All right, so that gives you a little insight into Ted. And then we also have Dr. Linda Lee joining us, and she is the Chief Medical Affairs and Science Officer with UV Angel. Dr. Lee is a qualified public health professional with a focus on the relationship of opportunistic environmental pathogens. She graduated with a bachelor's in environmental health science from Indiana State University. She earned a master's in operations management from the University of Arkansas College of Engineering, and she completed a doctorate of public health and occupational and environmental health from the University of Texas Health Science Center. And finally, she has an MBA with an emphasis in healthcare management. Dr. Lee is a certified indoor air quality manager. There's a big hint for you on today's topic. She has spent over 30 years in healthcare, having previously worked for CH2M Hill, Waste Management Healthcare Solutions, Inc., the University of Texas, MD Anderson Cancer Center, and founding member of Stericycle. She is a speaker and author of numerous peer-reviewed journal publications and 3 books published by the American Hospital Association. Wow. So welcome, Ted, Dr. Lee. I am very excited and I've been wanting to discuss this topic for our listeners, our dentists listening. I really want to get just your insight out of this. So let's jump in. Sound good?
Sounds great.
Sure. Awesome. So Ted, I want to jump in right in with you. Give me this UV. They've heard me now say UV Angel a couple times. What are we talking about today? What does this really mean?
Well, UV Angel now is a pretty substantial collection of experts in numerous fields, collectively working together to, bring the best solutions for infection control and pathogen reduction in the environment in an automated sense. There's a lot of, there are manual policies that every company relies on that are critical, but what UV Angel's goal is to use technology to augment those manual physical policies with automated systems that function, irregardless of how busy people are, that continue to do their job behind the scenes, making the environment safer and cleaner and reduce the likelihood of transmission of disease.
Got it. Wow. All right. So give me this story. It said inventor, and then I was like, okay, you had me at inventor. So what does that mean, Ted, when you invented something?
Well, the original core concept for UV Angel came to me at my annual physical years ago, when my doctor and nurse walked into the exam room for the first time not carrying clipboards, but instead carrying notebook computers. And they proceeded to touch me, touch computer, touch me, touch computer.
Yeah.
And working in healthcare IT, that immediately caught my attention. That hey, wait a minute, as part of their workflow now, healthcare workers have to touch computers and an ever-growing collection of electronic devices as part of their work, interaction with the patients. And that just as the healthcare workers ideally wash their hands between patients to prevent the transmission of disease from patient to patient, those pieces of equipment need to become essentially self-aware and able to wash their hands on an automated, intelligent basis between patients also, or as soon as those healthcare workers touch those surfaces, which is required as part of their workflow, that the fact that they have washed their hands becomes a moot point because they're now infected with a ridiculous amount of pathogens that otherwise tends to reside on those surfaces. So
Yes.
that was the core aha moment. And then it became, how do you automate that? How do you do it in a way that is safe for the patient, for the healthcare workers, and for the surfaces that you're trying to disinfect? And that set me off on the journey. And I went through a few different iterations, gradually building an ever-growing team of experts, either working with me or as advisors and key assistant roles as as I needed to gather more and more information and intelligence across a myriad of fields. And that's continued to this day, to where although I was the founder and sort of the guy who got this rodeo going, I'm now really way in the background. And now we have people far smarter and far better qualified than me. For example, Dr. Lee, that's here today, that are just incredible leaders in their specific fields. And they're all working together. They've taken the original technology that I came up with and dramatically improved it over time. And Dr. Lee, when she came aboard, brought the air technology to the team. And that was a major improvement that happened pre-COVID. So we were in position thanks to bringing her on board.
Yeah, talk about timing. Well, that's amazing. So I think that's a sign of good leadership, first of all, Ted, that you keep bringing smart people into the room. That's awesome. When did this start happening?
That physical was back in February 23 of 2010.
Oh,
and
wow.
It took me, it was quite a while. It took me a few years just to gather the intelligence, because there was a lot of information that was not readily available in the field of UVC. Everyone prior to what I started doing seemed to be functioning or working in the high intensity UVC arena. So there was a lot of data in that regard, but I understood the basic properties of UVC energy, which are very unique compared to other types of light. And that can be a problem, and that also ended up being a very good advantage. And so, I just had to answer a lot of questions that I had to meet and get to know people with PhDs in different fields and work with them and get together with different labs and come up with some, experiments to validate different ideas and concepts that weren't readily answerable when I first began.
Yeah, you got to
So
do your homework.
Took a few years. Yeah.
What was the first application date where you actually put a UV light system into a facility?
Oh, wow. I'd have to look. Our first clinical, Dr. Lee, do you remember, was that 2013 or 2014?
I think the dates on the peer review are around 2014. So I would imagine it would have predated that by a little bit of time.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Yeah, we started with a clinical test in a hospital in Chicago, and in their ICUs, and that was extremely helpful. The feedback we got and the results we got from that.
Awesome.
And
so, people who are listening can't see. I want to physically describe what we're talking about here so they really understand it. And me being a completely non-clinical person here, I'm all practice management and numbers and people skills. I imagine a light that, I don't know, I picture a tanning bed for some reason, but on a smaller scale that you can be around and you're not threatened to be in it for too long. I mean, give them a better picture than that, Ted.
Yeah, there are two basic, technologies that we're talking about at this point. There's what we call our ADAPT series, which is what I began creating at the beginning. That's a small electronic device that's about 5 inches long and about 1 inch in diameter. Has an incredible amount of intelligence built into it, very similar to your smartphone in a lot of ways, along with a UVC bulb and some highly intelligent sensors and accelerometers and gyroscopes and everything to make it able to determine its orientation in 3 dimensions and even go so far as sensing vibrations of people walking by or even sitting down or wiping a keyboard. I mean, our ADAPT device can intelligently and very accurately determine whether a keyboard is manually wiped down as part of their environmental services cleaning policy.
So this is a device that's sitting above a keyboard that's attached to it, and it's putting
a keyboard
a light
or any other device,
an iPad or whatever, something that gets touched in between patient interaction, and therefore it's decontaminating that area. And then all of a sudden somebody walks in front of it and their hands are in the way, it shuts off, is what you're saying. Yep.
It's extremely safe. Numerous safety, devices and methods built into it. So that was the initial start of the technology. Then when we met Dr. Lee, that's a whole new arena. In fact, that's the big focus now, thanks to COVID, and that's our AIR platform. And she had been doing previous work, and now our team has taken what was initially there, and just like with the technology I've created, just done insanely genius expansions of the core technology. So the AIR platform is currently about a 2 foot by 4 foot panel that goes into the ceiling. It can either be into a grid of a drop ceiling. It can be flush or mounted onto a hardtop ceiling, and it can be suspended if you have very high architectural rooms that have 20, 30 foot tall ceilings, to suspend it ideally 8 to 12 feet above the floor. And it has a sealed high intensity UVC chamber and then fans that draw the air in, pass it through that chamber, and expel the air back out the other side. And then things that are involved with that technology that I don't see other devices that use UVC to clean air, and it makes me think that they're not really doing all of their homework, or they don't really understand the problem, because they don't have someone like Dr. Lee and our other experts on board to tell you the cold hard truth, like Simon Cowell does on America's Got Talent. You can't just stick a little air circulation machine in the corner of a room and expect everyone that's making some of these devices all claim 4 or 5 nines of disinfection. Now, there's 2 things that you need to understand when you hear those numbers, that there are 2 areas where disinfection's occurring. One is just inside the UVC chamber, and that's where pretty much everybody is giving the data as far as the reduction of pathogens inside their UVC chamber. What I'm not seeing, I don't think anyone is presenting data except us as far as what impact is that device with that technology having on the actual air in the room. And ultimately, that's the only number that matters. So you hear everyone saying a 99.9 or 4 nines reduction, which is what we have, 4 nines plus reduction in our chamber. But much more importantly, we've done research both, at our company in both theoretical models, but also in actual three-dimensional rooms that we've sealed and we test. And even much more than that, we have a growing large number of clients that have done before and after air quality testing. And that's, for example, last week I had an appointment with my doctor, who's the same doctor that was doing my exam when I got the idea. He's now in this big innovation building for Trinity Hospital Systems. And I went to that appointment and was surprised, and pleasantly so, to see they had our technology deployed throughout that building. And my 20-minute physical ended up taking 2 hours because the doctor kept bringing other doctors and managers in to meet me and introduce to me and talk to me, because they were so excited about the results that their own tests had shown. And it was the same results that I've heard from numerous clients now with doing before and after air sampling, where it's been a dramatic improvement in airborne pathogens. And so, yeah.
Awesome.
Cool.
Awesome. So two products to imagine. So Dr. Lee, let's get into the science, the statistics. Ted's starting to introduce, what sets UV Angel apart from other standing units in the room. Give us some background on, where you started, how you got pulled into UV Angel, or I'm not sure how that story went, but give us that background and then where it's taking you now with this air quality control.
Yeah, that's a great question, Eric. And, I met Tom, and prior to the pandemic, I've worked all over the world, trying to solve environmental problems, particularly in hospitals as they related to air and disease transmission, particularly when, clinicians focus on trying to make people well. I focus on trying to prevent people from getting sick. And as it relates to the air, and I've spoke all over the world, in the Middle East and China and, South America and Europe and so on and so forth. And in all my talks, I always start out by saying, the life is going to change with one mutant gene, and it's going to be delivered by the air. And everybody would chuckle and ha 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 and, move on to the talk. Well, we're here. We're living this dystopia of life as we know it changing, and how long this change will go on, or how long this is going to happen. Sorry about that. How long this is going to happen, we don't know. If we take the history of pandemics, we're probably looking at least 2 years. But the important thing is that everybody breathes. Everybody has to breathe. And what we've learned during this pandemic is that we all deserve clean air, but we can't see it. Sometimes Ted's heard me talk about the invisible threat. And the invisible threat is that we protect ourselves from things we can't see. But the air, unfortunately, is something that, unless there's smoke, unless we can see smoke or we can smell something bad, we just think it's fine. And as we interact with people, we've all flown on planes. And how many times have you flown on a plane where somebody next to you is coughing up a lung for 4 hours, and you just want to completely Purell yourself when you get off the plane prior to the pandemic? And so we have some instinctively, we try to protect ourselves. But unfortunately, airborne transmission of pathogens is unseen. It's very difficult. So my interest started probably mostly as an industrial hygienist for most of my career, But when I worked at MD Anderson Cancer Center and was responsible for all of the facilities there, about 18 million square feet under roof, we had all kinds of air handlers. We had HEPA filters and UV and everything else. And yet at the end of the day, everything we did, we would still have infections. So I started studying what was going on actually in the patient room. What was the environment within this patient room, this bubble? Because that's what a patient is, or in their little environmental bubble. And we found that most of the transmission was not occurring from the air handlers, was not occurring from the air coming in, but it was more occurring from people interacting with patients in the room. And so that really drove my interest in this area. And then as Ted had mentioned, I was working on a development of an early version of this product. And then I met Tom Byrne, who's the CEO, and who brought me into the company. And the vision was to grow Ted's original platform to provide a holistic engineering continuous treatment of the environment. And that's how the concept of the air program came about.
Wow. That's awesome. It's so exciting to hear. So give us the stats. How is this, what does this do to the air?
Well, I think as one of the things that, as Ted mentioned, is that we uniquely study the environments with our clients that they're interested in and measuring the metrics that they're interested in. So CDC recommends 3 things if you're going to evaluate a technology. One is what is the laboratory studies, and Ted put it very well when he talked about people having studies that show 99.99, 99. What does that really mean?
Yeah.
And so it gives people an idea. So it gives you a number to start with. Secondly, CDC says you should look at what the claims are that the company makes, both from people who use the product, from the engineering, and that's where Ted talked about we mathematically model the performance of this technology against 88 common indoor environmental pathogens, things that you'd be interested if you were a veterinary clinic, if you were a dentist, if you were a hospital, if you were a school, things that transfer either organically through the environment or from people to people within the environment. And then the third thing, which really separates us from many competitors, is the peer-reviewed studies. A product that goes out and says, what actually happens in the environment if you use this product? And that's where we separate ourselves from many competitors, in that we have 5 peer-reviewed papers on this product. A 6th one is under review right now with the Journal of Environmental Hygiene, Occupational Environmental Hygiene, which is the journal of interest to occupational medicine, industrial hygienists, and so forth. And so that really separates what actually happens in the environment. What does it actually do for you as a customer? What does it do within your office or your dentist's office or whatever? And so that's where we separate. So those 3 things anyone considering a product in this space should consider. So
being totally layman on that, I have no idea, what I'm even saying when I ask this question. Okay. So please forgive me if you need to. I hear this phrase, kill rates. What does that mean? And how does UV Angel approach that? And what does it do with that? Because I'm so unclear on that.
That's really a great question, actually, because, kill has a synonymous definition with capture, with disinfect, with just a whole plethora of terms. Mm-hmm. Now, in our particular application, we're not really killing pathogens, we're neutralizing them. And by that is we're interrupting their DNA. And all viruses, bacteria, and fungus have to do one thing. they have to reproduce.
Reproduce, yeah.
So if they can't reproduce because we've destroyed your DNA, you eventually die. And so that's the pathway. A lot of people think about killing because chemicals traditionally kill. You know,
bleach
they
or something, or
bleach them, they dry them up, they desiccate them, they do all sorts of things. But different technologies have different operational pathways, and ours is to neutralize, and then that eventually eliminates, which is what is different than, say, filtration, which captures the particles. Particles aren't dead. Now, eventually, again, if you don't have enough media on the filter for them to reproduce, that may be the ultimate outcome. But each technology has a different operational pathway. So the word kill is often used synonymously with whatever that technology does to reduce, eliminate, and so forth.
And what is UV Angel's success rate in, I guess, that kill rate, for lack of a better term? What would you say, like when you look at the air quality before they're using it versus now? How does that, give me some numbers here? Dentists love numbers.
Perfect. For instance, in a test laboratory, as Ted said, we're 99.99. If we look at it in an actual operating environment, so say a dentist's office or a doctor's office or a hospital or, you know, a compounding pharmacy or whatever, we see anywhere between a reduction in the air of sentinel bacteria between, say, 55 and 80%. And then in settled surface, which is an interesting claim that we have, because we see a lot of bacteria reduction on settled surfaces. So those are the bacteria that fall out of the air and land on the top of your television set, or land on the light arm of your dental practice, that re-entrain itself every time the air handler kicks on or people come in and out. We see about a 50% reduction on average on those surfaces. And I can give you an example of a study that I did in a VA dental practice. Had about 24 dental procedure or operatory rooms. And we compared putting the UV Angel Air units in several of those rooms with the lobby area. During the pandemic, during all the pandemic cleaning protocols, during all of that.
Yeah.
And we use the lobby as a control. And again, there's no aerosol generating procedures going on there. That's just where people are sitting, doing normal people thing, all with masks on, of course. The operatories in the procedures room, where the generation of aerosols are going on, are 100% protected. People are completely dressed up. We still saw a greater reduction of the lesser amounts of bacteria in the procedure rooms than existed in the lobbies. And so what we found was we were able to keep those cleaner even with aerosol generating procedures going on with our unit. But in our peer-reviewed studies, we see pretty consistently 50 to about an 80% reduction in measured colony forming units per cubic meter of air, which is sort of like a surrogate for measuring the reductions in the environment.
It's like a square foot. No, I don't know.
And again, we're just talking the air technology, we're not including the ADAPT series that we started talking about. That's exclusively just using the air tech at that point.
I gotcha. So then the light on top of it is what you're saying, Ted, could even improve that, or is improving.
Yeah,
that.
onto the high touch surfaces. If you add the ADAPT series, then you take that improved surface, pathogen level and reduce it to basically nothing. If it's high touch surfaces and the ADAPT is applied to them.
Wow. Okay. And again, I know nothing about this. So when you tell me 50% to 80% reduction, I don't know what that means. Is that good? Is that phenomenal? I mean,
well, I think that you have to put it into context. So if the two most important things to get a disease, So you're the susceptible host. You're the person we're trying to protect.
Mhm.
That's the design of all of our technologies, is to protect the person.
Yeah.
And so you're the susceptible host. There's lots of things that go into that. And you've heard this during the pandemic: your age, your comorbidities,
Mhm.
your just overall general health, being exposed. But the two things that are constant with all disease transmission is a transmissible pathogen, i.e. the coronavirus 2, and that's a highly transmissible pathogen. In some cases, we've seen numbers as high as measles. And
Yeah.
so what we're looking at is a highly transmissible pathogen. But the most important thing of that is the amount, or what's called the infectious dose. How much is actually in the air?
I've heard that as viral load. Is that wrong? Am I saying it wrong?
Viral load is another word for
Okay.
that.
All right.
Infectious dose is your susceptibility to that. But the viral load, or the viral load of that, is how much free particles are circulating in the air. So if you can imagine that number is really high,
Yeah.
our technologies combined, as Ted said, lower that number down.
Mhm.
So what we're doing is that we're giving you added protection. Now, should you still wash your hands? Of course.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Should you? Yeah. So what we're
PPE,
doing,
all that. Yeah.
right? So what we're doing is we're taking this level that we don't know, because we don't know your individual variants, and we're reducing it. So we're reducing it environmentally as low as we can possibly get it in an active environment where patients are coming in, they're
Yeah.
having their procedures,
Aerosol.
aerosol
everything.
going on. So
Yeah.
we're constantly lowering that amount with the ultimate outcome. Now, we have 2 studies using this sort of technology, not with the adapt, but with the air, that had a 60% reduction in infections overall in an ICU, and a 28% reduction in infections to ventilator patients in a nursing home. So just by cleaning the air, no other protocols, no changes, nothing different, one unit had 28% less infections to their patient or their residents in a nursing home, and a 60% overall reduction in an ICU. So we look to study not only the reduction in the environment, but the outcomes that our clients are measuring. Another one was a compounding pharmacy. They were measuring compliance with what's called USP 797. And they were able to be 100% compliant by using this type of a product of cleaning the air. So it becomes really important to measure what the client is measuring. The one that Ted referred to, one of their major outcomes in that practice, that medical practice, was patient satisfaction. And of the patients and employees who responded to the survey after we put in these interventions, there was 100% positive response of patients wanting to come back into that environment, feeling safe to return to the environment. So it's multifaceted what you're asking.
Yeah.
But we do have specific outcomes.
That's great. Yeah.
You're gonna think I'm making this up, but this morning I actually had my 6-month cleaning with my dentist.
So did I.
Swear, serious, I swear, 9 a.m. this morning.
Me
Now,
too.
Everybody's clapping as they listen to this because they're very excited to hear
and
that.
several months ago, my dentist deployed the UV Angel Air technology in his office. Now, what's interesting, my wife had her cleaning yesterday and told me, she said, "Hey, honey, when you lean back in the dental chair, you look straight at the UV Angel Air unit above the dental chair and get to read all the cool stuff that it's actually doing."
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And I asked both the hygienist cleaning me, and then had a conversation with the dentist afterwards, and said, "Hey, what's the feedback you guys are getting with this?" And both of them, the first thing they said is, "Well, a large number of our patients who suffer from allergies have all said that they've noticed a dramatic improvement in their symptoms when they're in our building. Okay. And I mean, they were both, that was the first thing they said. And they said, now this is anecdotal. And he said, and I don't really have hard data to tell you this. He said, but none of my employees have gotten sick since we deployed the AirTech. Okay. Which, you know, I'd be interested to see how that continues to play out statistically over time.
Yeah. Actually, you're kind of taking the words out of my mouth, because I was thinking, well, I'm trying to think, okay, if I'm a dentist listening to this, how does this benefit me? Well, one, I think my employees are going to feel safer, right?
Yeah.
They're going to feel
and the dentist said that, he said, you know, prior to COVID, deploying something like this patients would be, wow, that's really cool. He said, on the, you know, now that we're on the other side of this, essentially, you know, at least now everybody's, you know, fully aware and used to it, obviously. He said, now all the patients expect that you have this kind of technology in place. And he said, and if you don't, you're going to be viewed as substandard.
Yeah, this is where ROI really is what we're getting into as an investment for a product like this, and saying, okay, well, if I'm a dentist, I don't have something in here that I'm doing for my patients. There are a percentage of your patients, if you're listening to this, right, you're thinking, okay, I haven't seen Ricky Bobby in 2 years. He hasn't been in the practice because he has this fear or this reluctancy to come back post-pandemic. There's a percentage of your practice, you need to know what that is, that you have overdue to come in. What's keeping them? If you were to put something like this in play, you do, like you're talking about, Ted, you know, you have all the descriptions on what it is, you do a video of it, and then we have a system that just texts and emails all your patients, say, look how safe it is to come into practice, here you go. And they just see a nice video of what you're doing with the UV Angel, all of a sudden the phone rings. And they're ready to get back in.
On our website, we have testimonial data from one of our customers, Michigan Smile One Services, where our AirTech and I believe also the adapter was deployed as part of their, you know, hey, let's you know, remake our system, to present that we're very aggressively pursuing making our environment safe for you as a patient. And they say they saw a 25% increase in revenue compared to pre-pandemic business. So that's an increase, not a decrease. And they saw a 168% increase in average monthly new patient appointments compared to pre-pandemic monthly averages. So they took the negative of, you know, and it was a huge negative for the dental industry, you know, of this pathogen, and, you know, turned that into a real win scenario for them, and actually, you know, grew their business by putting these kinds of systems in place and making it, you know, and very effectively communicating that to their clients and you know, people in their area.
And I see here, you know, people are going to say, oh, video, dental office, is that uvangel.com?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
And then is the email for more information, info@uvangel.com?
Correct.
Awesome. All right. And I'm looking at a brochure online. I'm there looking at it right now. And it's just really cool light. You know, it's up here. And I don't know if that's like inside, it looks like it's inside, but you can look at all this, and there's all kinds of statistics for you to look at, research for all of you, just doctors that are interested in this kind of thing. And it's really, really cool. So I want you guys to go check it out. All right. What do I have to do to put this in my practice? I got to remodel my practice. What has to happen here?
It's pretty simple, actually. We do a lot of retrofit. If you've got overhead lights, it can fit right into the ceiling grid. If you've got hard ceilings, as Ted mentioned, we have a hard ceiling mount. So it's pretty simple. It's got a constant hot for the infection control box. And then you can get it with or without a downlight, depending on what type of lighting. But from what I understand from our installation team and from, quite frankly, the electricians that put this in, it's about a 20-minute install for a new unit. And then once a year, you change the UVC bulb and the MERV 6 filter, and that takes about 10 minutes. It's literally changing a light bulb.
Wow. All right. Awesome. So what is one more thing that you guys want everyone listening to hear from you on this?
Well, I can go first. I've spent a career in this, and I don't think this is the last pandemic. And what we're finding is just like with what we're seeing in climate change, what we're seeing just in a lot of things is that these things are going to accelerate. And as zoonotic diseases jump host species, which is exactly what this is, which is exactly what MERS is, which is exactly what the first coronavirus and the pandemic of 1918, we're going to see more of these. And hardening your environment so that not only you're safe, but your patients are safe and your employees are safe is going to help to reduce the economic impact of these issues. And so I think it becomes really important for us to pay attention to the air and to pay attention, just like we do. You've been cleaning your office forever. You've been washing your hands forever. You've been doing all these things. And so a lot of times when I talk to people, I say, so what do you do for, cleaning surfaces? And they have multi levels of, well, we use this disinfectant, we use this cleaner, and we clean this many times a day for this, and we sterilize this often. But if I say, well, what do you do for your air? Most people can't answer that question.
I'm fogging or I'm aerosoling. I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing.
Or I do nothing.
Yeah. Yes, I hear you. I hear you. All right.
Exactly.
Well, that's great point.
I think what I would say is, along the same lines, I mean, you have to be constantly cleaning your environment. Now, do you want to always start every day with basically a really lousy, level of pathogens in your air and on your surfaces that you have to manually deal with every day and mask, frequently, and, mask mandates and not mask mandates? When I went in today, I was like, do I wear a mask? Don't I wear a mask? What's their rules? Now, and I don't want to, make any special claims about but people not meeting masks, but think about this. The mask that everyone is wearing, and I'm not talking about an N95 or even a step above that, a respirator, which gets close to 100%. But the mask that most people are wearing if they are expected to go into your doctor's office, or that I thought I would need when I went to my dentist today. That's about us, and Dr. Lee would know a lot more about this than me, but I've heard numbers about 60% filtration of particles, and who knows what that mix is as far as particle sizes. But it's interesting, if you could start with air that's already 60 or 70 or 80% better before you even put the mask on. Think about that. So if you can create an environment that, compared to everyone else, is as if you're wearing a mask, or even better than that, without a mask, and that's your starting point, that seems like a no-brainer to me. So,
Great. Love it. So good. So good. Paul, anything you want to add? You've been so patient, waiting and ready to pounce here.
Soaking it all in. Actually, I think Dr. Lee and Ted summed it up just perfectly. There's not much more than I can add.
All right. Awesome. Awesome. Well, I'm really grateful that you guys are willing to come on. I know this is a mutual mastermind here where I'm learning from you. Hopefully the people that are listening are learning, but also we're sharing you that, hey, dentistry wants something like this. And so that they're willing to reach out to you. And for those listening, please check it out. And I will also say this, you've got to know how to market this to your patients so that they know it's safe to come in when you have this in place. So that All-Star can actually help you with coaching services and verbal skills on how to communicate this. So if you're interested, send an email to heather@allstardentalacademy.com, and we'll continue to help you guys build your practice from the inside out, from marketing in, from verbal skills to training your team. You guys already know that. So I'm so thankful that we have this opportunity to meet with the UV Angel team. And for those listening, thank you for joining us and taking the time to invest in yourself. And until next time, go out there and be an all-star. Thank you, guys.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
Bye now.
Yep. Bye-bye.